Hey Raiders, welcome back to your first 2021 edition of First Chapter Friday. Today we are going to be looking at These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong, and it is a retelling of Romeo and Juliet. So I know all of you have read this story your freshman year in English class, so this is kind of a neat twist. It's set in the 20s in Shanghai, and it's two rival gangs. What I like about the author, Chloe Gong, is she's still in college. So I think that's kind of inspiring to know that you can be a published author and still be going to college. So for those of you that like to write, yay. She also lives in New Zealand and she has family in Shanghai. So she's kind of just all over the place, which is cool. I think that's really interesting. So the premise of the story, it's set in 1926 in Shanghai. And it's hums to the tune of debauchery. So a blood feud between two gangs runs the street red, numbing the city to its chaos. So there's so much violence that nobody even has the feels anymore. At the heart of it is 18-year-old Juliet, a former flapper girl who's returned to begin her duties as the proud heir of the Scarlet Gang, a network of criminals far above the law. Their only rivals in power are the White Flowers, who have fought the Scarlets for generations. Behind every move is their heir, Roma, who is Juliet's first love until he betrayed her. But when gangsters on both sides start clawing their own throats out, the people start to whisper of a contagion, of madness, of a monster in the shadows. And as the deaths stack up, Juliet and Roma must set their guns aside and work together no matter their personal grudges. For if they cannot contain this mayhem, then there will be no city left for either to rule. So let's go ahead and look at chapter 1. I'm not going to read the whole chapter, just a couple pages of it, just so you can get like the gist of it all. And you all remember Juliet, and you remember Romeo, now his name is Roma. Rosalind is there so as well. So let's get started. So chapter 1, September 1926. In the heart of Scarlet Gang territory, a burlesque club was the place to be. The calendar was rolling closer and closer to the end of the season, the pages of each date ripping free and blowing away quicker than the browning tree leaves. Time was both hurried and unhurried at once, the days becoming scarce yet dragging on for far too long. Workers were always hurrying somewhere, never mind whether they truly had a destination to pursue. There was always a whistle blowing in the background. There was always the constant chugging noise of trams dragging themselves along the worn tracks grooved into the streets. There was always a stench of resentment stinking up the neighborhoods and burrowing deep into the laundry that waved with the wind, like shop banners outside cramped apartment windows. Today was an exception. The clock had passed on the Mid-Autumn Festival, the 22nd of the month, according to Western methods of day-keeping this year. Once it was customary to light lanterns and whisper tales of tragedy, to worship what the ancestors revered with moonlight cupped in their palms. Now it was a new age, one that thought itself above its ancestors. Regardless of which territory they stood upon, the people of Shanghai had been bustling about with the spirit of modern celebration since sunrise. And at present, with the bells ringing 9 times for the hour, the festivities were only getting started. Juliet was surveying the club, her eyes searching for the first signs of trouble. It was dimly lit despite the abundance of twinkling chandeliers hanging from the ceiling, the atmosphere dark and murky and wet. There was also a strange, sodden smell wafting under Juliet's nose in waves, but the poor renovations seemed not to bother the mood of those seated at various round tables scattered throughout the club. The people here would hardly take notice of a small leak in the corner when constant activity consumed their attention instead. Couples were whispering over decks of tarot cards, men were shaking one another with vigor, women were inclining their heads to gasp and shriek in recollection of whatever story was being told over the flickering gaslight. "You look rather woeful." Juliet didn't immediately turn in haste to identify the voice. She didn't have to. There were very few people who would approach her speaking English to begin with, never mind English with the flat tones of a Chinese mother tongue and the accent of a French upbringing. I am perpetually filled with woe." Only then did she crane her head, her lips curling up and her eyes narrowing at her cousin. "Aren't you supposed to be on stage next?" Rosalind shrugged and crossed her arms, the jade bangles on her slender brown wrists clinking together. "They cannot begin the show without me, so I am not worried," Rosalind scoffed. Juliet scanned the crowd again, this time with a target in mind. She found Kathleen, Rosalind's fraternal twin, near a table at the back of the club. Her other cousin was patiently balancing a tray full of plates, staring at a British merchant while he tried to order a drink with exaggerated gesticulations. Rosalind was under contract here to dance. Kathleen showed up to wait tables when she got bored and took a measly wage for the fun of it. Sighing, Juliet dug out a lighter to keep her hands occupied, releasing the flame, then quenching it to the rhythm of the music gliding around the room. She waved the small silver rectangle under her cousin's nose. Want? Rosalind responded by pulling out a cigarette tucked within the folds of her clothing. You don't even smoke, she said as Juliet angled the lighter down. Why do you carry that thing around? Straight-faced, Juliet replied. You know me, running around, living life, committing arson. Rosalind inhaled her first puff of smoke, then rolled her eyes. Right. A better mystery would have been where Juliet even kept the lighter. Most girls in the burlesque club, dancers or patrons alike, were dressed as Rosalind was, in the fashionable kui pao sweeping through Shanghai like wildfire. With the outrageous slit down the side revealing ankle to thigh and the high collar acting like a chokehold, the design was a blend of Western flamboyance with Eastern roots and a city of divided worlds. The women were walking metaphors. But Juliet had been transformed through and through, little beads of her pocketless flapper dress swishing with every movement. She stood out here, that much was certain. She was a bright, burning star, a symbolic figurehead for the vitality of the Scarlet Gang. Okay, I'm going to stop here. Very interesting. Also, if you read Gatsby, it's kind of in the same time period as Gatsby, but in a different country. So come check this out. It should be ready in a couple weeks. Any books that you want to read or check out, you can place holds on Destiny or send me an email and I'll pull them and place them in the hideout for you. Okay? Guys, have a great day, readers. Have a nice 3-day weekend. Bye.